no powers.
So we got until the week. Every from village boards here.
But we're not on the board.
It's 5 o'clock. We'll call it to order. So we'll call the meeting in order of the joint review board for the TID districts for the village of Hortonville. Myself, David Detroit, village administrator, Dave Ferris with Ehlers, and then if the other guest here could introduce himself for the camera that is being recorded. So,
I'm Yvette Miller, Outagamie County.
Faith Schiedemeier, Fox Valley Technical College.
Todd Tim, Hortonville Area School District.
Mike Blau, Village of Hortonville.
okay, David, it's all yours.
I think you need to.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion to appoint a chairperson.
I appoint David Detroit.
I'll second.
Okay. Review annual reports for the performance and status of the TIDs. So, it's all you.
Okay. So I handed out a map, and if anybody in the crowd wants the map, you probably know where all your TIP districts are, but I did a little creative work today just because I wanted to have this in our file. I'm going to start with TID number 2. TID number 2 was created back in September of 2000. In 2011, it was amended at the status of distressed. However, the expenditure period ended actually last year, and the board actually did a termination resolution last year to close the district. So, obviously there was a pretty good comeback from the point where it was in the distress state. The base value at the closure is almost 847,000. Incremental value when it closed is about 13.4 million. The end of 18 fund balance is 125,000, but you collected another increment in 2019, and that covers that deficit as well. The closure year was 18, which means the last revenue year is 19. I believe the audit is coming up within the next couple of weeks, so they will finalize the costs, and then they'll come up with the distribution of any remaining funds after the closeout. So hopefully they'll have that done in the next month or so, and the overlying districts should see their payment. Just going through the report itself quick. There's a map on page 3, which I've actually got on the map I have where that's located more in the southwest part of the village. And then as far as the development assumptions on page 4, those are the numbers that were finalized by the DOR a year ago. Actually, I think that must be this year. Yeah, so it would have been a year ago that they came up with the last amount, so that's how much you were taxing in 2019, which was 309,000. On page 6 is basically the end of the cash flow. At the end of 18, the audited fund balance is a little different than this. There was an amount of the legal taxes that had to be returned to one of the businesses because of the assessment being off. The auditors are going to have to do a reclassification of that amount. It was recorded in a different fund at year end, but it applied to this TIF district because the one that it was recorded in hadn't started collecting any increments, so it's kind of hard to refund taxes that actually haven't been generated. So that'll be a change that we'll be looking for in the final audit report. So the 125,000 is what we believe that end of 18 number should have been. The 2019 has an increment of about 309,000. You have a few debt payments that's left to do. I believe that's a bank note, so you should be able to take that and pay those off as long as there's no prepayment penalty. You'll pay, your remaining costs will be the amount that you pay for us to do the annual reports, and then the audit. And then this TIF district will be done. There'll be payouts to each of the overlying tax districts based on the audit, and TIF 2 will be done. Any questions on 2?
Like we said, Dave, I will, when we see something from Trevor Rose, I will get in touch with you two to make sure he wants to take a look at it before we close it up and make sure everything is set with our with Ehlers before we.
Yeah, I just wanna make sure that rescinded tax amount gets into the right place. So we'll move on to TIF number 3. TIF number 3 is more in the, what looks like the northeast part of the village, actually pretty close to here. So this one was created in on September 19th of 2013 as a mixed use. The expenditure period ends on September 19th of 2028 with a mandatory close of September 19th of 2033. The base value is $96,000. It has $6 million of increment value, and it has a positive fund balance as of 12/31/18. Based on the cash flow, depending on if you have any other projects that are out there at this time that aren't accounted for and may materialize, if nothing else materializes, the projected closure of this district is 2025. There was some new construction that occurred in 18 related to the Village Retail Center. There was a kind of a difference between the construction end and the actual, when it was actually finished. So there is actually a split between the 18 amount between 18 and 19. So we should get some extra value next year on the tax roll as well. Let's see. Other than that, there isn't any additional construction expected to occur. As far as since we've got a map for you, I won't go through the map, but on page 4 is the development assumptions. We have the actual in the orange is what the DOR certified. The retail center is $628,000. That'll go on for next year. Although the $1.2 million is that, I don't think I had that under new construction. Is that under construction right now?
That is the retail center.
Okay.
That was the finalized projection on that value.
So do we have it doubled up in here then?
I think we may.
Okay. We can amend that and I can
Okay.
send that up. That would obviously have an impact on where we're closing, but we can get a new report sent out. I didn't realize that was a double up. Are you sure there isn't like 2 pieces? Okay.
So basically, there shouldn't be an allotment under the multifamily, it should be under the retail center, is that?
Correct.
Okay.
I think what happened there, Dave, was potentially, we had spoke about, because we are qualifying a multifamily development currently, so that might have been put in the wrong, because we're working on a project right now, but it wouldn't equate to last year.
Well, this is construction year 19, so are you doing something right now?
It probably wouldn't happen until next year, if it does happen.
Okay. So if we're doing a projection and it may happen, do you want me just to move it down?
I think it'd be best for you to
Okay.
put down, correct?
Okay, so that'll have a little bit of an impact on the district. But if it was completely done, obviously it makes a bigger difference to that closure period. So we'll move that down. We can send you a new report. If you want, I can run one with it all out too, if you think it's, okay. So the next page, with that correction in mind, on page 5, projects out the increment. Like I said, if that $1.2 million is moved from 19 to 20, we'll reduce how much we collect in total, but it won't have a drastic impact on the closure period. It might be a year or so. So if you carry that increment value from the right column, that should flow right into the cash flow on the next page. So starting with revenue year 18 and down, you'll see on the next page, which is the cash flow for TIF 3. We're about $128,000 expected in 2019 revenue collections, with what we have projected for 2018's construction. That would pop us up to about 142, and then with that whole $1.2 million in there, we'll move that down. That'll move that pretty much to 2022. So we'll lose about $42,000 of increment, which would definitely bump this to a 2026 closure then. So we'll rerun that report for you and get that out to you. Any questions on TID 3? All right, TID 4. TID 4 is somewhat close to where TID 2 is out in the west side of the village. It was created on January 1st of 2017 as a mixed-use district. It has an expenditure period that ends on January 1st, 2032, with a mandatory close on January 1st of 2038. Base value is $510,000. Incremental value to date is $1.2 million, almost $1.3 million, and a year-end fund balance at the end of 18 of $122,000 deficit. We'll show what that's about when we get back to the cash flow. Based on the current cash flow with this is where that $1.2 million comes in, Dave.
I was gonna question that. So what we have is a development in 4.
Okay.
We have a development in 4 where we're currently working with a developer to acquire 6 lots. 5 of them are in the TIDs, 1 is external.
Okay.
So, and we're selling it on a condition that we have 5 new R1 build-outs this year or early into 2020 with an estimated value of $220,000 to $250,000 each, so.
Yeah, so it's kind of a fluke that's about the same amount that was in that last report.
Correct.
But that is related to what Dave just talked about. Let's see, new construction. Same thing with the cottages on Main. The timing as far as when the construction was completed was split between the 2 years, so you'll see that the cash flow reflects the actual is in the 2018 construction year with the remainder in the 2019 construction year. And going back to page 3, which is where the development assumptions are, we have a few things that are coming online as far as construction. Like I said, we finished up the cottages development. There, is that duplicated? Okay.
Well, there's the weed up, so they did split out.
Okay.
Because part of it's WEDA and then part of it is the way I think what they ended up doing for WEDA, part of their program was WEDA funded and then so it's separated.
Okay.
So I think if you add the 2 is the total project there.
Okay.
Is it?
I just want to make sure that we
Yep.
didn't have the same problem with the last
Yep.
report. So, and so you can see the the development assumptions as far as what the construction years are with the development in TID 4. And then that development assumptions flow into page 4, which calculates out the tax increments. So at the end of, or the revenue year 19, we're expecting 8,600, and with the development that we're expecting, we're gonna eventually get up to about $100,000 of increment. And that increment projection flows onto the next page. Which probably is really small on yours, I'm thinking. But that increment revenue flows into that first left column. There's a little bit of interest earnings or interest on advances, depending on if the village decides to charge any interest on loaning the Tiffany money. We did not borrow for any of the capital costs. It's being financed through the general fund advance. And so you can see that obviously affects the cumulative balance, but over the next 5-6 years, that becomes a positive cash flow and pays off those capital costs, where we have a positive cumulative in year 2026. And because we don't have any obligations at that point, we would be able to close it. Any questions on 4? And then finally is tip 5, which is the downtown. This one was created on January 1st of 2017 as a blighted area district. The one thing about being a blighted area district is that this district is able to receive donations from other TIP districts. And as I mentioned a year ago, it has always been the intent that TIF 3, once it became positive, would start sharing increments with TIF 5. At this time, the village has decided to kind of wait and see how things come out, as far as the donations coming in, to develop those project lists of what they would like to do in the downtown area. So the donations coming from 3 will help you create a funding source for your projects, which hopefully create some value, and then create the TIF increment that will help pay this district off. So at January, the expenditure period on this one ends in 2039, mandatory close of 2045. The base value is about $522,000, and it has gone down a little bit. Maybe there was some demolition or something in that area where we lost a little bit of value. And so really the only thing we're paying for at this point is, I think, has been the creation of the district for the most part. Projected closure year is the year at this point, because we don't have knowledge of what those revenues are going to be. The way the cash flow looks is that it doesn't pay off until the end of the district, but that'll change drastically as you start to figure out, what funding you have and what projects you want to do. And then, once you get done with what you planned on doing in the project plan, we'll have a better way of projecting when that closure truly will be. So at this point, staff instructed us not to have any new construction built into this. So it's really the only thing that flows through this, like I said, is the cost of the creation and a little bit of administration. So if you turn to page 3, you can see that we haven't done anything with development assumptions and the amounts as far as the value on the ground. We had a big loss right off the bat, which must have been some demolition, but we got some value back. We're almost back to 0 as far as the increment value. We're almost back to the base value, basically. Because we don't have a positive increment value, there is no tax increment forecast at this point, so there's nothing coming into the district because of tax revenues. And then as far as the cash flow, there really isn't much to it. As I said, we're basically in the hole because of creating the district, and then whether the village chooses to charge admin costs to this district is up to the village. But in 18 we didn't charge any. We have something built in, but if you choose not to do that, obviously the balance would just continue at that $12,000. So I think this district will become a little better, it'll be a lot better forecast once you finally have a chance to actually come up with some projects and then develop some values. So I think at some point in the future, the village will probably ask this board to help out by approving an amendment to share between TIF 3 and TIF 5. Any questions on any of their reports?
Is there a timeline related to the projects that are planned? I mean, how far out do we anticipate identifying?
Right now, with Governor Evers putting $75 million worth of grant work, we're actually working on a grant application for a revitalization of the entire downtown district. So that's going to be on tonight's docket for approval, actually. So with the bypass being projected for 21 to 24, it would leave us a 2-year window. What we're submitting for RFP from engineers and designers currently is to do a restoration from Lake Street on the east end of the corridor all the way down through Miller Park on the west end of the village. And that would be all major infrastructure, as well as redevelop and redesign and beautification of the entire corridor. So that would be a major project for TID 5 with facades and everything else. So at that point, we will be more than likely having to go out for the general obligation note, and then we'd have help from the other TIDs, because they would, at that point, they would be more than likely financially stable to give to the TID 5. So 3 and 4, Dave, correct? 3 and 4 are donor TIDs, correct?
I don't know if you've actually made that amendment
Okay.
yet. So you would have to actually do an amendment to
Four.
share from 3 and 4.
Okay, currently it's 3 though, correct?
I don't know that that's been
Okay.
passed.
I'll check on that.
Yeah.
But as a receiver TID, we would have to make an amendment then to transfer funds from, to and from, so.
So it's something that the village would bring back to this board to approve it as a TIF amendment. And, based on the cash flow of 3, we finally get to enough to pay our, maybe they don't want us to talk about this. You'll be able to pay off your obligations in 25, so at that point would be probably when TIF 3 is gonna be able to, share anything with the downtown.
We've got windows open.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did.
Any other questions?
So we're gonna need a motion to approve the resolution acknowledging filing of the annual reports in compliance with the annual meeting requirements.
Does anybody need a copy of the resolution, Steve?
I do have copies.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay, and after that, just some,
All.
yeah, we'll have to do a roll call vote. Okay. White, we're gonna do a roll call vote, so motion to approve. It was motion and seconded, so if you approve, you say yes.
I say yes.
Todd?
Aye.
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 Okay, 4-0.
So we have a resolution that we usually have you sign, and there's 2 copies, so I can take one with. So we'll just pass that around quick, and then we're all done.
I can start one of them.
Oh,
Do you have
okay,
two?
sorry.
Do you have 2 copies there?
I'm leaving too fast. Dave, do you want any of these additional copies? I'll redo a 3.
If you wanted to send them when you're confident.
So you don't want any?
Yeah, I have the other ones on file. We made paper copies and that's fine. So we have an emotion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. I usually don't leave the meetings. Thank you so much.